Hello, fellow Star Wars fans. It is Starrapter here, joined by the full crew this week for Outer Rim Transmission, episode number 13. On the docket for tonight, we have more coming out of Star Wars publishing, with some Legends books being reworked, as well as a new Star Wars comic series starting up in the fall. Plus, we have some words from Emilia Clark on returning as her role as Qi'ra in something, hopefully in the future. And plus, we have Leslye Headland, head of the Acolyte, doing an interview and really giving us a lot of information about exactly what she thinks of Star Wars and how she might work that into her series. And of course, stick around to the end because we will be breaking down and reviewing Star Wars The Bad Batch, Season 1, Episode 9, and we're going to get all into that episode. So that is going to do it for our docket. That is what you guys can expect. And as always, we're going to open the show up with our week in Star Wars. Since Milton could not join us last week, I'm going to throw it to you, man.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. My week this week was Star Wars. Actually, something occurred today. I was down in Virginia for a little day trip this afternoon, and I went to this vintage toy store. I seem to always run into these places, and they had the episode 2 toy series collection of figures. They had a whole bunch of ships. They had the Power of the Force action figures. Anything you can think of, they had it. So I think the last couple weeks for me has been a big thing of seeing vintage Star Wars toys and all that type of stuff, which is really cool. It just brings back a lot of memories of being 10, 11, and 12, especially during the time of the prequels, whenever Star Wars was being relaunched at that time. Just like in 2015 when Disney released The Force Awakens, their Black series of figures became a big thing. But for us in late 99, early 2000, Power of the Force, then 2002, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith in 2005. So it's nice to see those figures are still around. It's nice to see that people are still into them. And I was able to see some interesting figures, like characters that no one really talks about, that's still a part of those collections. So it was really cool to see that. So I think eventually I'm going to buy a couple of those figures and try to start a little collection.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is me and Milton were talking last week about the Power of the Force, the Lucasfilm 50th anniversary reissue of the Han Solo, the Greedo, and the Luke Skywalker. And it just brought me back, like the nostalgia of just that packaging with, Vader and the orange, or sometimes it was also the green, I remember. So that's a lot of fun seeing those classic figures. And of course, the mall packaging, as the guys over the Star Wars Underworld always talk about for the episode 1 release of the figures. That was a big deal, having Darth Maul in the package, the orangey and the black of it all.
Yes.
And then of course, like the Force Awakens, having all those Black Series. I have the one in the packaging of Kylo Ren, and a really funny story about that was I hadn't even seen the movie yet, but I also had a Han Solo in the first line of the Black Series, which is like the black box before the Force Awakens ones. I put the Kylo Ren in the package next to the Han Solo. I had him there for months before the movie came out. And then the movie came out. It's like, that's perfect, because I had no idea that was father and son. I had no idea, and I just had them sit next to each other for months before the movie came out. So I always got to kick it out. I still have them right next to each other in the box there. But I just can't wait to get back to conventions, man, because that's where I see all these awesome figures. I mean, my local comic book store, Comic Relief here in Hamilton, New Jersey, or Lawrenceville it is, they always have a lot of cool Star Wars figures, whether it be old ones or new ones out of the package. So yeah, that was a good time. We're gonna go off of toys because I have a really cool thing I want to show you guys. I got it in last week, and I just felt like I'll wait till Milton's here to show you guys all this, because I ordered this thing a while ago, and I got here, and man, oh man, is this thing cool. Look at this.
Oh, snap.
Oh, wow.
The Mandalorian helmet, the Black Series.
Oh, man.
I'm trying to bring up my camera so I can see. Okay, here we go.
Where did you order that from?
I had to get it off of Zavvi, which is a British distribution site that they have a lot of random stuff. But the quality of this thing is unbelievable. It looks like it's steel. It's hard, plastic that is literally pristine. And
Yeah.
it's even got, I don't know if you could see, but like the lights go on and off inside of the helmet
Okay.
there. And there is so much,
right,
there's
right.
so much detail inside the helmet. And I don't have it next to me, but you could also take off this part here, and you could put on the like another attachment for like the flashlight, like the tactical light. So here, let me try to put it on. I gotta take the headset off, of course. So I'm not gonna be able to hear you guys at all, but this is so cool.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Oh yeah, that's pretty badass.
If I had earbuds, I would put the earbuds on underneath of this and talk. But as you can tell, it's kind of echoey. There is no voice modulator in this thing, but it's actually pretty good to see out of. Like, I can see really well out of this thing. I'm planning on taking it to New York Comic Con in early October. I got a pretty neat cosplay I have planned that's gonna probably a lot of people are gonna enjoy. But yeah, I mean, this thing is just so fun. Like, I could just wear this around the house because there's actually a lot of visibility in this. Even though it looks like really dark here, I can see pretty well out of this thing. But yeah, I mean, if I had the earbuds, I would probably just keep podcasting the rest of the night with this thing because it just feels so cool to wear a Mandalorian helmet. Yeah,
That's
so
very
all right.
impressive. Very
Enough of
impressive.
that.
That's amazing.
I'll throw it over to Ben.
Well, for me, well, for starters, that helmet's pretty amazing. And funny thing with that, I was actually looking at not that helmet specifically, but man, the helmet I really want to get is the $100 GameStop exclusive white Boba Fett prototype helmet.
Oh.
And it looks so good, but it's literally out of stock everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's it's a Black Series model. But anyways, yeah, my weekend in Star Wars, I would say I didn't have anything too eventful. I didn't have any awesome helmets coming in, or didn't see any interesting Star Wars products at the stores. But mine mainly was just really appreciating how much Star Wars can like bring friends and family together, because all throughout the week I probably talked hours and hours to my cousin and one of my best friends, just talking Star Wars theories and ideas and like what could happen with this or that or the other thing. And me and my best friend the other day, we talked for probably like 2.5 hours about different things related to like what could happen with the Bad Batch, what could happen with Boba Fett, and so on and so on and so on. And, it's really cool appreciating how Star Wars can bring so many people together, across the like wide spectrum of ranges, and, also make people become friends. I mean, look at us three. We're all Star Wars fans, and, now we literally message pretty much every day. And, it's always a lot of fun. There's that, and then the only other little thing that happened was one of my other friends. He went to school to be like a prop designer or whatever.
Nice.
And he's working on right now making a whatever the model is of the battle droid on Naboo in episode 1. He literally sent me a Snapchat of like just the head and the neck of it, and it's like life size. What?
He's making like a 6-foot high B1 battle droid?
Yeah, he has like the head and neck already like.
Man. How did he make it?
He's doing it through like 3D printing, he said.
Oh my gosh, he's actually 3D printing an entire battle droid. That's amazing.
Yeah, he sent me the head and neck. He's like, oh my gosh, this is taking forever to do this, but he's a super creative artist. Like I'll send you guys the pictures after the show, but he actually entered a costume contest back when we were in high school to meet Stan Lee. And here's the kicker. He won it actually. And because he designed literally like a perfect Spider-Man suit from scratch. Like he looked at like the Tobey Maguire one, and it looks like movie quality Spider-Man suit.
Whoa.
And yeah, and they shipped him, or they flew him out to like California back then, and he met Stan Lee and all that.
That's so dope.
So he's like a real creative, really good artist when it comes to that type of stuff. But like I said, Star Wars and all these awesome, like nerdy properties can bring so many people together.
Yeah, talking about the battle droid, because I want to bring that up, and it's kind of like the clone trooper, right? Like, we always see First Order stormtroopers, we're always seeing regular stormtroopers, but we never actually see, like, prop battle droids because they never existed. Same thing with the clone troopers. You never seen them exist. George Lucas was always adamant in those times, okay, it's all digital, we're going to just create this thing digital. There's not even any, like, kind of test or anything that they had to, like, compare shadows. It's literally all digital. So yeah, just to see like a battle droid that would just be in the corner of somebody's room casually would like freak me out. You know, walking into that room and just be like,
oh yeah, I know.
Oh my gosh, it's a battle. You know, oh, so cool, so iconic and so nostalgic. So we're gonna get into our first story of the night, and this one comes to us from Hollywood Reporter, and it's basically saying that Emilia Clark is ready to be back in Star Wars. She's basically been, I guess, getting ready for her Marvel series that she's working on, with Samuel Jackson, and the other guys, but yeah, she's going to be. I'm trying to pull up the exact quote right now. See, this is what happens when I'm not exactly ready on the thing, but I'll just paraphrase it. Basically, it's like she really likes the character of Qi'ra and wants to get a story back because she knows there's plenty of treatments for stories in the future that she wants to do, and she's like, I'm at the point where I'm gonna just write it myself and send it to him, kind of thing. Like, that's how ready she is to be part of Star Wars.
I mean, like, I think, first of all, I like her character, Qi'ra, and in Solo. I thought Emilia Clark, I mean, she's a talented actress. I think she does a lot of good work. I think especially when it comes to Star Wars and her coming back, and with that, I know you talked to us about this. I think a couple weeks ago, her character showing up in a comic book. I think it was around Return of the Jedi. She was still around, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So to see what they're going to do with that particular character, whether it's in that particular time period or after Solo, whatever, just knowing that Emilia Clark is involved in some way, shape, or form, that's really cool to know. I'm glad that we still have these actors around who are still interested in fleshing out their particular character in this particular franchise. I think we all know the history of Solo and how that movie was produced, the outcome, and kind of some people thought it was good, some people thought it wasn't. But I think people have been clamoring more. Let's see what those characters were doing post Solo. And I think this is a great opportunity for Emilia Clark to really dive in further into that character. Hopefully fans will embrace her continuously as a Star Wars, alum. So like I said, I'm excited about this.
Yeah, okay, so real quick, I did actually find the exact quote here. So she's talking about Qi'ra. She's saying, she's the one that has the most unfinished business, Clark explains. I really had pages about what her life was and what it would be afterwards. But I'm afraid I've heard nothing from Disney Plus being the case. So maybe I'll just write it and send it to them. I'll be like, hey guys, I've got a few ideas. So I love the candid response about how she's totally on board. She's like, yeah, they had the treatments. So let's go ahead and do this thing. And I even heard like she actually read the comic where she appears in it. It basically emotionally it moved her. Like, so she's like, all right, let's just get me in. Like, all right, who do I got to talk to at Disney to get me involved in a darn show already?
Yeah, and it's not like it can't work, because I mean, right now she's probably around the same age as Harrison Ford was when he played him as a young man. So
yeah,
I mean, you can figure out a way to make an 8-episode miniseries of what she's doing, around Empire / Return of the Jedi time frame. Like, you can make that work. Or also you can, again, Alden Ehrenreich's out there. You can still try to figure out what their connection was as young Han Solo post the Solo movie. So there's a lot of things you can do. I mean, we have animation. You can use that medium. So I mean, again, if Disney really wants this to happen, or I should say Lucasfilm, if they want this to happen, they're going to make it happen. I think there's enough fan interest to say we want to see what's happening more with those particular characters, and also in particular with Qi'ra.
Yeah, I mean, Book of Boba Fett taking place 5 years after Return of the Jedi. As we all know, Cad Bane is back in the picture, and me and Ben at least think he's going to probably be in Book of Boba Fett. So they don't need her right away, because if
Right.
Boba Fett's gonna have an antagonist, hey, his season 1 of Book of Boba Fett could be about him and Cad Bane, and then season 2 they could bring in Qi'ra as an even more powerful antagonist for Boba Fett. So there's still room to work her in, even if people are alarmed that she hasn't filmed anything. Yeah, because
Right.
obviously Book of Boba Fett has wrapped production a couple weeks ago. They've been done with that. So, but looking ahead, there's always a possibility to throw her into something. You know what I mean? So, Ben, you have any
Oh
more
yeah.
thoughts about this?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's always exciting to see actors who've been in Star Wars being excited about wanting to come back into Star Wars. That's always a great thing. Like I've always felt, take Tamara Morrison for example. I've always felt he's always been real positive about his experiences with Star Wars, and it was just great seeing him back as Boba. So I think we're in a similar situation with Emilia Clark, where she enjoyed it, and then obviously she sees all of the fan outcry, I'm sure, on social media. So I'm sure that like makes her confidence a little bit higher, I would say, just because there was the mixed reaction, and it underperformed at the box office and everything, but seeing how much fans love the character, I'm sure that really helps her, like, oh man, this might actually could potentially happen. But for me, I think the route they're gonna take is this. So, if you look at it this way, Solo underperformed at the box office, like, that's just facts. So, even though we all loved it, but it underperformed money wise. So I think that could potentially make maybe the higher ups at Lucasfilm a little gun shy about, greenlighting a Solo and Qi'ra type series. So I think there's a really high chance that we might get Qi'ra and maybe even Alden as Han in the Book of Boba Fett, or in like the Mando timeline, or
Hmm.
whatever you want to call it, like the space between Jedi and Force Awakens. So I think that's the route they're going to take. They're going to just use them as almost guest stars, or potentially like you said, Chris, just maybe this first season Boba's antagonist is Cad Bane, and then it turns out to be Qi'ra in the next season. And then you could throw in Alden, getting into the picture as well, because we don't have that exact story filled out yet. And Alden, he's young enough, he can play a young Han Solo after Return of the Jedi. And with this being with them potentially being in shows, the good thing is, some people may have viewed Solo and been like, oh, I don't want anybody but Harrison Ford to play Han. But the good thing with the show is, like, if you don't like a show, you can skip the couple episodes he's in it and, keep it moving. So, I don't know. I really think there's a good chance of it happening. And when it does, though, fans are going to go crazy. And I think they're going to really love it, honestly. But it'll have to be a big surprise. Like, I think if she's in Book of Boba, whether it be season 1, season 2, whatever, I think they're going to do it really, really try to keep it under wraps, like almost like they did with Luke at the end of Mando season 2.
Hey, what's up, Fatal J, in the comment section down below. So this is my idea for all of this. I understand it'd be really good to have Han in the sequel trilogy, or in this era of the trilogies and whatnot. But I just can't fathom the fact of seeing anybody else play Han Solo after the fact that we've already seen Harrison Ford play himself in that, play Han in that era. So I don't think I'd be okay with like seeing. It's one thing if he's 10 years in the past, like we haven't seen Han look like that before. So I
Right.
accept it. I love Alden Ehrek's performance and everything about him. But seeing him after Return of the Jedi, I would have problems. I don't know, a lot of people have problems, but here's my pitch, or what I would do is I would use Book of Boba Fett as sort of like a gauge for fan reaction. Like, bring Qi'ra in as one of the antagonists, let's say in season 2, and if that really
Hmm.
does well, they could have an entire like Solo 2 like prequel series to see how she got there, that takes place after Solo, but then uses Alden Ehrenreich and Jonas Sumantanamo as Chewbacca, like, but use like Book of Boba Fett as like the leaping off point, and then go back in time, and then also
But
have not
I
Billy
mean,
D. Williams, but
yeah,
Daniel Glover and
and
all that.
I will listen. I mean, I think you're right, Chris. I think that probably makes sense because let's be real here. That's how they make Star Wars. Everything's out of order half the time, anyways. So I mean, look, if you're right, if they want to use the not Mando season 2 or season 3, Book of Boba Fett as the barometer of Qi'ra's character, so be it. If it's a positive reaction for her character, go back. Again, you can make it into a mini series. It probably don't cost as much to do a mini series compared to a full feature film.
Mm-hmm.
So make it a 6-episode feature or mini series of saying, hey, what happened after Solo 2 with the actors that are already available, most likely, hopefully, to shoot that series. And again, they'll get the views because it's Disney Plus. I mean, hell, their Marvel shows are killing it right now. You know, anytime Star Wars streams are on the platform, they do well. That's what the numbers are. People tell us the numbers. So they have the platform to do it. The issue is going to be, will the fan audience want that? Will Disney, Lucasfilm write these characters properly and kind of redeem them from what happened in Solo, if that makes sense? So I don't know. Like I said, it's there. It's potential. We have to see how it plays out.
Yeah. So there you have it. There you have it. We got Emilia Clark. She's on board. I know Alden Ehrenreich would be instantly back in the role if they do like a prequel series to A New Hope or whatever with him and all that. But only time will tell, everybody. Only time will tell. For our main topic of the evening, we're going to go to an article from AV Club, and they spoke with Leslye Headland, who is the showrunner for The Acolyte, which is that series that's been announced, and it is going to take place towards the end of the High Republic era. For those of you not unaware, it's basically a couple hundred years before the events of the Phantom Menace, right? So what I really pulled from this article is that I think she really understands Star Wars, and she's got a fresh, kind of unique take on Star Wars. She was an Uber fan, just like all of us here, all of us watching. She played the tabletop RPG. She's wrote fan fiction. You know, Heir to the Empire was like one of the first books she ever read, I believe. Like, so she really did a lot of her homework. But it's nice to know that, because I mean, we also have creators out there that do amazing things with Star Wars, such as for Rogue One, you have, and I always, Christopher McQuarrie, or what was his name?
Yep.
Yeah, McQuarrie.
Yep,
Yeah.
Chris McQuarrie.
Yeah, so Chris McQuarrie, infamous for not really caring about Star Wars, but came in to fix up the script for Rogue One, and well, we all know, at least
And
all
I
of us
believe,
here.
I think Tony, was that Tony
Tony
Gilroy?
Tony Gilroy.
That's who it was. Yeah,
That's
Chris
who it
McQuarrie's
was.
Mission Impossible.
That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I took a look at this article. I picked out a lot of cool things here. I think she understands Star Wars as art, right? And I hear that a lot, because everybody has different interpretations on, especially with the original trilogy, and a lot with the prequel trilogies. I've been listening to a lot of their podcasts talking about that. You can extrapolate like so many ideas from Star Wars that aren't just specifically dealing with Star Wars itself, and you can like bring it to the real world. You know, the classic thing is, you know, a lot of us, yeah, we go to Star Wars for escapism, right? And we're trying to get away from all the real life stuff that might be happening with politics, and yeah, when it comes down to it, you know, there's the evil emperor and stuff, which kind of, you know, George Lucas had some hints of things from real world at the time in the 70s that he was pulling from. So she gets that, you know, Star Wars, you can't run away. Like, Star Wars is political, whether you like it or not. There's different factions that are vying for power and whatnot, which is basically politics. So, did you guys get a chance to look through any of these or read any of the notes and see exactly what you think about this creator?
Yeah, so I read like probably a good half to 3/4 of this article, and you know, I don't know if I'm really, let me make sure I'm putting this right. So I don't know how I feel about this upcoming, you know, project yet, just because after I read through the article, and I like that she's very familiar with the property. She seems to know Star Wars, and that's something that I always love about a creator. So you guys know that. I've been consistent about that. So I'm glad that she understands Star Wars. However, and you just talked about this, Chris, about how Star Wars is political, and it pulls from the particular time period of when it's being created. So I guess nowadays we have, you know, representation of all types of people, whether you're of color, white, sexual orientation, religious creed, whatever. And I get that. My fear is that with how politically correct our country is now, and how quote unquote people are woke, is she going to pull too much of that and kind of water it down to like make a point to say, hey, we got to have this, and this to represent what our culture reflects, because Star Wars is a separate universe. And I mean, I know we all know it's fake and make believe, but in a sense, we still get diversity without pointing it out, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my only fear about this property, because I remember she talks about, the LGBT community, which, I mean, again, I love that community. I have a lot of friends that are part of that community. So be it. I want them to be represented in the best way they can. I just don't want it to be a focus on, in the sense of like, we got to have a lot of people of color, a lot of white people, a lot, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't throw it in my face, if that makes sense. And that's my fear.
Yeah.
That's my fear, what they're going to do with this particular property. Because I still want to be able to feel like, okay, this is Star Wars, and I want to see all the diversity. I just don't want it to be, I don't want it to be like a Band-Aid, if that makes sense. Like, I clearly see that that's a sore in front of me. I just want them to just make it organically make the show how you want to make it, if that makes sense.
That makes
Hopefully
sense.
I'm explaining that correct for people who are listening or watching this. Because again, I don't want you to think that, oh, Milton's trying to be that jerk and he don't want different types. Of course I want that. I complain about the sequel trilogy for this reason. There's not enough new things in it. I want this, but like I said, I don't want them to be so obvious with it. I guess that's my concern.
No, I think you put it really well there. Like, so far they've been doing an admirable job with, paying homage and respecting everybody out there, and making sure that, some people do have a character that they can gravitate toward depending on what they classify as, right? And when I was reading the article, there's this whole part about her roundtable in the writer's room, which is, you have a series, you have it's not one person writing, it's everybody. And her approach was I forget who she was quoting herself to be as, almost one of these other creators out there, but basically like, it was somebody from Star Trek. It was John Picard. Or Jean-Luc Picard. Like in other words, like Jean-Luc Picard in Star Trek. I've never watched Star Trek, so I'm hoping I'm summarizing this okay, but I'm reading it. Like, he kind of like leaves up the decisions like to an open vote, kind of like Socrates, or like a democracy. Like, what do you guys feel about this? Or what can you guys tell me about this? So I like her approach as like a leader in that position, to be like, she's not going to just like be a tyrant in that regard and just like, okay, everything's got to be like this, I mean, George Lucas, we love the guy, but a lot of the times nobody would say no to him. He would just say, we're doing this, this, and this. He had a lot of yes men in the prequels, and well, that's what happened. Why the prequels might have turned out to be something that a lot of people didn't like as much as the original trilogy, because he didn't have as many checks and balances. So when I hear that she's bringing up this and being in that kind of role, opening things up to the people, it makes me kind of believe that she has that kind of vision for what it's going to be like.
Yeah. And I think she has good intentions. I mean, clearly, again, I think anyone who's doing a project like this is brave. They have more courage than me to be a producer, writer, director for especially a Star Wars property. Because again, Ben, you're notorious for saying this. Star Wars fans are greedy as hell and we're impatient. So I give her the kudos, and she has the onions clearly to want to do a project like this, and I'm glad. Like I said, I just don't want it to be a project where I don't want it to be where it's a project I'm just going to throw stuff in there just to throw it in there. Like, make it an organic story, make it make sense. Clearly weave that stuff in there when it needs to be. I'm okay with that. There's so many projects out there, whether that's non-Star Wars, that focuses on, diversity, racism, politics, sexuality, religion. And the best ones do a good job at organically weaving those particular parts within their stories. They're not so caught up in your face. The ones that don't do a good job are the ones that are like over the top. Again, I think Star Wars had their moments to be guilty of that, but like I said, I'm holding off that when the Acolyte is being made, or when it is made, that it's a really good Star Wars property. That again, it challenges the fans. It's exciting. It brings us new characters to relate to, it brings us new themes and ideals that we can attach to that relates to us as people in today's society and culture.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Ben? You got any thoughts on Leslye Headland here?
Oh yeah, I can echo almost pretty much everything that Milton said. I like. All right, where do we begin? All right, so I like the fact that she has that Star Wars background, being a fan, all of that sort of stuff. She's a very well-rounded creator. If you've never seen Russian Dolls, check that out. That's pretty good. So she's definitely a qualified creator, but I do have. I can say, I'll give her the benefit of the doubt, give the show the benefit of the doubt, because we really don't know anything about it other than the little bits of information we have. So, everything I'm about to say, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. But my big concern about this show is soon as you introduce the word political, it raises red flags to me, because nowadays, a lot of times, you see people on social, like a lot of these companies bend to what social media, what pleases Twitter is basically a lot of these entertainment companies.
You ain't lying on that one.
So this is my thing. What, are they judging? Like, what's the trendy social thing right now? Like, for example, we had the stuff go on with like George Floyd last year. So you have that. So since that's like the current topic in the news right now, are they going to somehow extrapolate stuff like that to Star Wars and like really make it on the nose? And I get concerned when it comes to political things like that, because as you said, Milton, this is a different universe. This is not our politics. Like, sure, there are some political messages in Star Wars, of course, as in, any creative project, because creative projects are inspired by real world things.
Absolutely.
But I think a lot of people, when it comes to social media and YouTube and just fans in general, they forget these are different universes. Even like the MCU and DC, sure, they're in the USA, but they're still a different universe. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people forget that. And it makes me nervous because, as you said, Chris, like they're going to be doing, it's kind of like a by committee type, like a roundtable creative process. But my concern with that is, what if every single one of the people on the roundtable are ultra political, and then, it turns the show into basically a political propaganda, almost like the CW has for some of its shows. So
yeah, that's actually a good way. See, that's a good example, and I keep forgetting about that because sometimes Supergirl got like that. Oh, and so if you watch Supergirl, and some people got turned off by that show, and I get that, but I know they're trying to reflect what is going on in that particular time.
Yep. Yeah. See, that's kind of what I was. As soon as I heard that, I thought of the CW, thought of Supergirl, and then my thing is, when Leslye Headland like talked about, George Lucas like included politics and things. See, the problem with when you throw out George Lucas into the discussion, that's almost trying to already put up a potential shield, like to say, hey, George Lucas did it, so
he did it.
He did it because how many times, me and Milton are always on here dogging on the sequel trilogy, but how many times did we hear Rian Johnson talk about George Lucas leading up to The Last Jedi, and then we get to The Last Jedi and, that happens.
Yeah.
So that's my big concern. Like when you throw out George Lucas like that, it's like the easy answer, the easy crowd pleaser. You're preaching to the choir basically. Right. So that's what makes me nervous when it comes to potential political dealings in shows or movies or things. Mm. But again, I can give her in the show, benefit of the doubt, because we don't know anything. We don't know anything about it. And the way they do politics, it could be introduced very naturally. Like my biggest example, I always thought the best example of just naturally introducing, like for example, like LGBT into a show was during The Walking Dead, like probably, I don't know, season 4, season 5, whatever, however many years ago, anyways, one of the characters was gay. His name was Aaron. And when he first got introduced to the main crew of The Walking Dead, he walked out like with his arm around his boyfriend, and, you know, they just all
just casual.
And, you know, he didn't just like alert the crew and be like, hey guys, so, you know, like, just so it was like in the camera, basically like a political message. It was just naturally included in the story. For me, like when you naturally include the like LGBT things or race related things or religion or things like that, as long as you include it naturally in the story, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. It's fine.
That's where I'm at. I think if you normalize it in a way that, I mean, because again, it's normalized. Look, LGBTQ, racism, bigotry, sexism, they're all horrible things. Like that discrimination type of stuff. We know that, but we know, in a sense, it's normalized in our society because we deal with it every day. You know, people are combating that every day. Social media is combating it. You know, they're dealing with the social justice stuff. So I do want to see it, but make sure I just want to normalize it in the sense of, okay, I know it's present. Just don't throw it in my face where I have to like that. That's the primary focus point, unless it doesn't play an actual point into the plot, you know?
Yep.
And like I said, even go ahead, Ben. I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. You finish your point. I have something lighter to say.
I was gonna say too, and you know, maybe Chris can jump in on this with me, but even thinking about the original trilogy, you know, I watched so many documentaries about why George made it the way he made it. Our country was coming off of Vietnam at that time. You know, Vietnam War plagued, you know, our country in the sense of like our veterans, the economy, the way they were received when they came back. And George made a property that, you know, clearly lightened up in the world, that brought something new that kind of got up people away from like their sorrows of Vietnam. And then prior to that was World War I and World War II. You know, and even if you look at how the empire is represented, the empire is pretty much a Nazi party. You know, so like, but George made it to a way where it was like a fairy tale in a lot of ways too, where you believed in your hero. He saved the girl, you know, that type of stuff. So I think we're missing that sometimes when it comes to whether it's Star Wars or whatever. I mean, again, I think we're missing that element of fairy tale, happy ending, you know, take me away from all the stuff I'm dealing with in my everyday life.
Oh yeah, escapism is a huge part of Star Wars and any medium, I feel like, and that's something you know, a lot of people forget. When we go to movies, for the most part, for the general audience, like I don't want to speak for billions of people, but I feel like if you would ask just about anybody on the street, why do you go to a movie? It's for entertainment. You know, it's to escape the real world, escape your hardships for 2.5 hours or whatever, or you know, if you're watching a show every week, you know, you're escaping whatever's going on for the week for an hour, you know? So I feel like escapism is a huge part of entertainment for me. And sometimes when you get those political messages in the different forms, no matter what you're looking at, you know, it can pull you out and go, oh man, you know, and you're thinking about the real world instead of what you're watching on the screen. So, you know, that's kind of my thing with that. And then, you know, on a lighter note, guys, so I will have a problem if we get into the Acolyte and you have the Acolyte, whoever the Acolyte is, this apprentice, if you have her, you know, she gets mad and she's like, okay, let me go to the HoloNet and tweet out #cancel the Jedi Order.
Oh man!
Okay, if they pull that, I ain't gonna touch that one. But go ahead. That's kind of funny. That is kind of funny.
Well, yeah. My final thoughts on the topic here is, you know, this is something new, right? We're being injected into a new era on screen for the first time. You know, this isn't attached to the original trilogy. It's not attached to the prequels. It's not attached to the sequel trilogy, which really does leave Leslye Headland and her team a lot of room to go, a lot of room to have a space, a cushion, to create new characters, to build them up, to be something unique and something that is going to hopefully draw new fans and old fans alike like us. So the ball is in her court. We're going to see how it plays out. And yeah, Star Wars is escapism. But, you know, going into the prequel trilogy, we know that the Jedi are going to slowly fall. So
Yep.
I think we're going to deal with politics, at least in the physical sense of the word. Like, okay, we're dealing with Jedi Order and things going wrong, and obviously Acolyte. We're dealing with a dark side user here. If we aren't, that's crazy why they would release like the teaser with a red lightsaber going through the title. So yeah, I don't know. It's just exciting, but it's also very cool seeing this different kind of creator taking it on, and I'm excited for her, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
gonna
Like I
be
said, I'll give her a chance. I mean,
yeah.
she'll get my opportunity because it's Star Wars. You know, like I said, I'm hoping for the best.
Yeah, so I don't know how to segue from that because that was probably one of our deeper topics on the Outer Rim transmission so far. But we're gonna get into some really fun stuff here. We're gonna get into some books and some comic books, but some of my favorite stuff with Star Wars. All right, so the
Yeah.
first one we're gonna talk about here is Del Rey put out a tweet. They already put out their first wave of these, but we have a second wave of the Legends Essential trade paperback editions for. We have Star Wars Rule 2, which is book 2 of the Darth Bane trilogy. We have book 1 of Rogue Squadron. We have both Dark Forces Rising and The Last Command to finish off this new look of the Thrawn trilogy. But basically all this is a reformatting of basically the size of the books, which used to be smaller. They have the larger book sizes, which are going to be a little bit less thick on the bookshelf. But the artwork on these things is incredible. They already put out Wave 1, which I've been seeing a lot of people post out online. They had Shatterpoint with Mace Windu. They had Heir to the Empire. And they also had book 1 of the Darth Bane trilogy, which is called Path of Destruction. So yeah, they're going to keep putting these things out. I think it's a great idea that they're putting out these Essential Legends editions because, you know, I guess this is in conjunction with the 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm. So we're seeing a big push for action figures and now publishing. And it's nice to have that starting off point because for the fans that want to go back before canon, they're like, where the heck do I even start? I think there's like 170 adult books for Star Wars Legends. It's like, how do you even get through to that to like the first thing to try out? So it's really neat having like this quick little assortment of books where it's like, all right, you want to start off with what started off, which was Heir of the Empire. You want to start off with the Darth Bane trilogy, which is some of the best Star Wars books I've ever read. You want to start off with Rogue Squadron because, hey, we're getting a Rogue Squadron movie in a couple of years here. So I think they've really been doing a great job of kind of catering these books to some of the biggest releases that there ever has been. Now, which of these books would you guys pick up first if you could choose?
I'm actually looking at the artwork right now for the books, and I ain't gonna lie, that is a Rogue Squadron, I
Yeah.
think, or no, Dark Force Rising. That cover looks fire. Like
Oh,
that's
yeah.
got Han Solo and Leia with the trooper helmet in the background. And that's in the book number 2 on Thrawn trilogy. So I know I listened to it before audiobook, so I'd probably want to check that out. Rogue Squadron, clearly, I think everyone would definitely go that. So I would say the Dark Force Rising book would be for me.
Yeah, I do like the whole theme because if I look up the Lucasfilm or the Legends Essential Edition for Heir to the Empire, I believe it has like Thrawn's face in the background or something like that. So they have a nice little like theme going on with that trilogy of the books there. But I also forgot to mention they have unabridged editions of the audiobooks. They released one for Shatterpoint, and they're also going to have one coming out, I think, for Rogue Squadron. And I didn't understand this because I don't listen to audiobooks, so I didn't know what the big deal was. So apparently, some of the old audiobooks like Shatterpoint and Rogue Squadron, they didn't actually have audio for like the entire book. It would be like segmented areas, so it wouldn't be the full 15 hours or whatever it would be for somebody reading through it. So it's really neat that, you know, they're actually going back and re-recording, like, I guess the entire thing over again or filling in more places because there's a lot of Star Wars Legends fans out there. I know there's a lot of Star Wars Legends fans that subscribe to the YouTube channel and that listen and comment. So it's really cool seeing these guys get something. It's girls and guys getting something for their interest, because not a lot of them want to read the canon, but they do enjoy that Lucasfilm and Disney is still acknowledging that, hey, Legends are a big deal and they got a lot of people into Star Wars, so we're going to keep putting out content, whether it's not brand new content. I don't know if they're ever going to do that. I know there's a lot of people that really want them to just like do one story to just tie up all of Legends, but at least, you know, it's not completely like crickets on the end of Disney. They're still trying to get some content to those guys out there.
Yeah, and Ben, before we get to you, man, Chris, you say you don't listen to audiobooks that much. I'm telling you, man, you need to go back and listen to them, like, because whether it's and Ben probably knows where I'm going with this. Either it's Mark Thompson or Jonathan Davis reading it to you, you're gonna feel like you're in that book. I mean, Chris, I know you love the comics, and you can open up a book and be done in 2 days. I feel like when you read something, when you listen to this book or the books, you're gonna be like, oh my God, why didn't I do this sooner? Like I'm telling you, like some of the stories and how Mark Thompson or Jonathan Davis read those characters. Plus, you have the original music from like the prequels and the original trilogy that they played throughout the books. So like again, it's like you're listening to it via like a movie or like a teleplay or something like that. It's one of the best feelings I've ever felt as a Star Wars fan when I just sit there. If I'm playing a game or driving on a road trip, hey, I'll put on the Force Unleashed, and that book. I think Sean Williams wrote that one. It's read by Jonathan Davis. It's amazing. Like you can feel Darth Vader breathe. Like you can feel like the vibrations. It's insane. So anyone who's out there watching and listening to this podcast, go back and download those old Legends books. Like I'm telling you, you will be sucked into them. You won't be able to stop listening.
Yeah, speaking of which, Jonathan Davis, isn't he the guy that played Gimli in Lord of the Rings?
No, that's what's his name? He was in like one of the 007 movies back in the day. I forget his name now. It's not Jonathan Davis, it's somebody else.
Oh, that's John Rice Davis.
Yes, you're thinking of him.
I was just thinking in my head, like, Gimli just reading you, like, a Star Wars book would be all
No. His voice is a little different. Yeah.
Yeah, I have listened to the audio dramas, which are freaking fantastic. There is the one, Dooku Jedi Lost by Cavan Scott. There's also the Dr. Aphra audiobook or audio drama. And they're also coming out in August with a High Republic one called Tempest Runner. So I really enjoy like when they have like that sound stage or whatever, and they have all the different actors and they're all responding and reacting to like one another as there's like amazing sound effects and stuff. Like I'll get drawn into that, but like maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll just go ahead and spend some money on the Shatterpoint one because people are seeming to like that. And then I think I would want to pick up the Rogue Squadron Legends book because these come out in September. The ones that we just talked about, they come out in September. Right. So I'll probably check out that one just to kind of get an idea if there's going to be any kind of stuff pulled from that book to put in the movie, because we know that what's her name, the director,
Patty Jenkins.
Patty Jenkins did mention Michael Stackpole and how she's going to like kind of pay homage to what he had done in the past and all. So I'm like, okay, that might be worth like checking out those books to kind of get a good idea of what might happen or something.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, as always, echoing most of Milton's points on audiobooks, they are definitely the way to go. Like I love them. One of my favorite audiobooks was Catalyst. And it's great. And it's great because I believe Ben Mendelsohn's Australian. And it's great because when the guy reading the Catalyst book, he tries to put like an Australian accent on Krennic. So, you know, he kind of sounds like Krennic from the movie. So it's pretty cool, like little connections like that. And like you said, there's always like little sound effects and different things. And there's just so many good things when it comes to the different audiobooks. And also I've listened to the Lost Stars audiobook. That's really good. But yeah, there's plenty of different things to listen to. But in terms of the Legends books, I'm most excited for all of the Thrawn ones, especially Heir to the Empire, just because those are, they're just classics. And they're always so much fun. And to me, on the like the movie or like the screen side of things, it's interesting that they're not just like throwing these books in the closet and never talking about them again, because even even go back to in whatever season of Rebels it was, I think Ahsoka's the one that says it, like there's always truth in legends. So that makes me wonder, are they pulling from these books that they're releasing? Are we going to be getting more more of the Thrawn stuff, more of the, of course we're going to get more of the Rogue Squadron stuff. Patty Jenkins said that, but are we going to be getting more of those type of things? I mean, Shatterpoint, Mace Windu, like all these different types of things. Are they going to, these books that they're releasing, sure, they're not canon, but once they release these upcoming projects on screen, could they be like, hey guys, of course, and everything's about marketing. Hey guys, over the past couple of years, we released all these books. They're not canon, but we drew inspiration from them. Boom, there's money. So
okay, I'm gonna say this. All right, I've brought this up before. This is where I'm like Kathleen Kennedy. Don't ever make the comment about we don't have the material like DC and Marvel.
Source material.
Yes, you do. It's all there. Like, again, this is showing us, Chris, right there. What this article is telling you is that we have rich content that the fans still want to relive. We have rich content that the fans still want to be put on to the silver screen or streaming screen, and then they can rework the stories to make them canon. Fine, so be it. But it's there. Again, if us three as fans are saying, hey, we might rebuy that, and I already have it on audiobook. I almost bought the hardcover of Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Jackson John Miller book, last week. Even though it's just stuff like that, it's still there. We love that. So this should tell you there's an audience here for Legends since day one.
Oh yeah. Well, the good thing about that is people, of course, at the end of the day, it's more money for Lucasfilm. Yep. But then it's also, a lot of people, I mean, even look at the sequel trilogy. There's so many things they put in there to play to nostalgia for older, fans in their 20s and up, I would say. So what's more nostalgic than pulling all these old books out and saying, hey, we're re-releasing them, blah, blah, blah. And then, they potentially having impact, not directly in canon, but hey, we drew inspiration from this, or that. Like, I think there's a really good chance of more drawing from Legends. That was honestly my first thought. When you sent us the show notes, Chris, I was like, oh man, I really think that they're going to start drawing from Legends a little more, just because of this specifically. And it makes me wonder, are we potentially going to get not a twisted sounds dark or sounds bad, but are we going to get kind of a twisted Thrawn trilogy? Is the Thrawn trilogy basically getting twisted around to turn into the Mandoverse, the Mando timeline thing? Like, is what I'm saying? Like, could we potentially, the Thrawn trilogy basically be getting adapted a bit to the time period between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I'm thinking it's something along those lines. And then just one final note, like, sure, just a book recommendation just to check out for our audiobook people that we're pitching audiobooks to. Sure, we've said our different things about the Ahsoka book and the missteps with canon. The cool little thing about that book is Ashley Eckstein actually reads that. So it's Ahsoka reading you the book.
That is quite interesting. Yeah, I remember hearing that. There's a couple books like that, like Queen's Shadow is read by the person that does the voice in the Clone Wars for Padme. So there's a lot of cool crossovers for different characters or different actors that have played the voice, which is always a lot of fun. I could see the line drawn to each one of these Legends books, right? Like, we got that rumor years ago about a Darth Bane series in the works or something, and I think that could be definitely plausible. But where the heck is Mace Windu gonna show up in all this? Bad Batch? I mean, maybe.
I mean, I'm trying to think what book he's in. He's in a couple Legends like audiobooks that I know he's been in. Like he's referenced a lot. I mean, there's never been a focus on him now to think about it, unless I'm missing something.
Milton, I swear I feel like there's an old Legend book or comic or something, or could have been just people theorizing way back in the day. I feel like there was something where Luke met Mace Windu at some point.
I don't remember that. I'm sure I've probably seen it if it's out there.
See, I feel like I remember hearing like seeing something about that. But my thing with Mace Windu, he has to be a lot. I think we'll see him again at some point because here's my Mace Windu campaign. But we have Lucasfilm tweeting like it's only the beginning. Like they posted on Mace Windu's birthday. You know, they posted like sure they could be meaning he's still young or whatever.
Really?
But then you have they post that if you look at the Instagram post because he was born on Christmas Eve I think is when it was. But if you look at their post from last year, like the quotes like "Happy birthday, Samuel Jackson," blah blah blah. It's only the beginning, and so it's like, what's that mean? And then you have Mace Windu, Samuel Jackson posting on Instagram like a week or two ago. It was like his shirt had a little shot at Jango Fett in it, and then his hashtag at the end of the post was "Mace ain't done yet." So it's like, could we potentially get Mace at some point? And one of my buddies, he's always like, "No, Mace died. We saw him die before he flew out the window." But I said, "This is my pitch with Mace. If you argue with me, Mace died when he was getting zapped. How the heck did the Emperor survive getting exploded in the Death Star?" So, like, I don't know. I feel like in Star Wars, nobody stays dead for the most part. So I think it's just a matter of time. Well, like Kathleen Kennedy said back in the day when they were talking about Boba Fett. Boba Fett is dead until we have a good enough story to bring him out of the Sarlacc pit. And I think that's what we're going to get with Mace at some point.
Yeah. It could be Bad Batch. I mean, what else is in that time period, right? Like, I mean, there's nothing really.
Well,
unless
here's my other thing for you guys. Maybe, I mean, this is really going off the track now. But what if Mace is the one we get a flashback, say, whenever Ahsoka is in her show or whenever Grogu comes back in Mando? What if we get a flashback and Mace is the one that rescued Grogu from the temple? I mean,
oh wow, that's a bold prediction.
That and
actually
boom, there he goes,
well.
Samuel Jackson. I mean, what would be cooler than seeing badass Mace Samuel Jackson holding Grogu like with a chopped off hand, fighting off clones and stuff, getting out of Coruscant?
I want to see Mace Windu really lean into his dark side because we know from Legends and even in one of the comics, like he has a darker side. Like even his old, his own comic story, right? Like he grew up and he had this, his own saber form. His own saber form is like more aggressive. I forget what exactly it's called, but it's like, that's it. That's it. Yeah, it's really good with that. So I have a notification going off. All right. Very annoying trying to speak when you have like buzzing going in your head at the same time. But anyway, so yeah, it's interesting to see, like, it would be really cool to see Mace Windu kind of like dive into his like dark side as he's taking out stormtroopers like in the lower cities of Coruscant or something like that. That would be such a cool, edgy show. Man, it'd be so amazing.
Oh yeah, I think there's limitless potential. Who knows? We could get to the end of Book of Boba Fett and Mace walks out of the shadows ready to take on Boba.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, get revenge,
Right.
So shifting things over, before we get into our Bad Batch, we did get a mid-season trailer. And, well, I was all excited to break this thing down with you guys tonight. And then I watched it, and it's only a minute long. So that was my first red flag. I was like, it's only a minute. Huh. There was like 3 scenes, and 2 of those scenes we had seen on this week's episode pretty much. So Gone are the days of those glorious Lucasfilm animated mid-season trailers that we used to get for shows like Star Wars Rebels and Resistance, because they would be like blowing our minds, like, oh my gosh, Star Killer Base is in Resistance, and oh my gosh, we're getting Darth Maul, and like there is humongous revelations. So I'm sitting there like ready for like a huge thing of Boba Fett or something, and it's just like, oh, there's some green tanks and some more shots of the city that we still haven't seen in Bad Batch. But I just wanted to kind of put that out to the people. Like, yeah, it was, I guess the good old days are sort of behind us. And I guess part of it can be because it's on Disney Plus. So it's not like we're actually getting like a 3 or 4 month break in between. Like these episodes are, it's like, oh, here's the mid-season break, but we're only waiting a week because next week we're going to start the second half. So it's like, what's the point of even saying you have a mid-season trailer? Because it's just like the entire show never has a break to begin with.
Yeah, I mean that look, that's the benefit of a streaming network now. Because I remember when it was a Clone War, or no, Rebels wasn't on streaming yet. I think it was still on. Was it Netflix? No, Cartoon Network.
Disney
What was
XD.
Rebels? Disney. That's what. Thank you, Disney XD. Yeah, like you had to wait each week, but then they forced, because the TV schedule is different from a streaming schedule. So you're right, because I do remember the one particular trailer for Rebels, because we got to see the cross saber with Ezra. Remember that one? It was like an old, like, yeah. We were like, huh. We're like, oh, Kylo Ren, like, because we're thinking like Kylo Ren at this point, blah blah blah, and really that didn't really do nothing. That didn't go anywhere, but it was cool to see that. You know, we're like, oh wait, the Jedi had cross sabers too, so this is an old design. You know, so like I said, we don't get those anymore, and I get it. It's streaming now, like everything's instant.
That's right.
Yeah. I totally agree with you guys. Like, I was so excited. I was ready to like blow up our chat. We have, as soon as it popped up the notification, like new trailer, I clicked on it, watched it, and was like, oh, okay. like I was like, oh man, I'm gonna beat Chris to this notification, and then I was like, well, I'm not even gonna message about it because it's nothing. But just imagine this, guys. Like, what if, like, sure, 75% of the trailer have it be shots we've seen, or 80% of it. But what if the final 10 seconds, I don't know, you have Omega like wherever, standing around somewhere, and all of a sudden, like, she's like talking to somebody and she's like, who are you? And then it cuts and he's like, I'm Boba Fett, or like whatever. Like, what if it was something like that? Like, that's something to get people hyped up. I mean, for the love of God, they put Thrawn in the one Rebels trailer, and
right.
That could have been a big spoiler, but people didn't care because it's like hyping the show up. So I don't know. I wish there would have been something bigger in this, or who knows, even just throw Vader in it. Like, Vader's always the default thing, but just throw Vader in the trailer and people would have been happy.
You're not wrong there for sure.
Yeah. So like
that's the easy answer though for that one. Like, I think we all can agree that Vader, there's no need to see Darth Vader in this particular show right now. There's no need, because we still got to figure out these guys. We got to figure out the cloning, and this is, again, Vader at this point is on his own walkabout. He's got to figure out what he's going to do with his own character. So it would make no sense to see that Vader at this time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of which,
like I said, just marketing, but
no.
Anyways,
you're
Chris?
not wrong, dude, at all.
No. When the series first started, I thought Bad Batch was gonna be like the Vader's fist. I thought they were gonna be like his personal like retinue of clones that would be working with him, because it's like the end of the Clone Wars was kind of like a technical test for like, oh, this is what Vader will look like in Clone Wars style animation, and get used to it because you're going to see a lot of that with his clones. And it turns out that has nothing to do with it, which is great, because it's like, why would he be involved if there's no like force sensitive people in this show at this moment? It doesn't make sense. He's only interested in the things that are going to threaten the Emperor, which would be a force sensitive, right? So just getting into the actual episode itself, as we always do, we're going to go into full spoilers. So at this point, if you're watching or listening, pause it and come back after you watch the episode. So tonight we are talking about episode 9, And this one is called Bounty Lost. And, well, before we get into this one, I want to ask Milton, what was your reaction to seeing Cad Bane appear in Bad Batch after almost like 10 or 12 years or something we haven't seen
Right.
him in?
So you got my voice message last week, and I loved seeing him. Like he's become one of my favorite characters. Anytime when I talk to my brother about a new character or an old character coming back, usually we get the Cad Bane some way, shape, or form because Cad Bane's badass. Like no, he's just an overall cool character, and I've loved him since his introduction back to the Clone Wars. So I will say that's probably one of the better written characters that we've gotten, especially in animation, which we will all love to see in live action. That's where it's going to be really interesting to see whoever's cast as that role, what type of technology you're going to use, whether it's makeup, whatever CGI. But as for him showing up last week's episode, I didn't see that coming. And I was like, holy shit! I'm like, Cad Bane's here, and in the way they that Hunter and Cad Bane, had the standoff.
Yeah.
Again, it reminded me of that unfinished footage between him and Boba Fett. Dope. And even after listening to you guys talk about it last week, again, I echo a lot of your points about how well he was used. And again, I did not see that coming. So unless someone leaked it before, but I didn't know he was going to be in the episode.
No
so
one
I'm
did.
glad we got to see that. As for his appearance in today's episode, I like this episode a lot. I think this was a good episode for sure. I'm going to echo everything Ben said in our message earlier today.
Yeah.
How is he getting wrecked by Fennec Shand like that? And again, Fennec Shand's a badass. We know that eventually. But this is her just starting out as a bounty hunter, from our understanding, how they set the story up. Cad Bane's been around for a minute. So there's no way he should be easily getting trashed by her. But again, I like the episode. It was a solid episode. It's pushing the story where I think it's going to go darker, because now we know the Kaminoans were the ones that hired the bounty hunters, both of them. We now know that they need Omega for this particular reason to keep the original project of cloning going on. That, again, pushed the story. Love that. But again, my only hiccup was, man, Cad Bane took an ass whooping in this episode. And I didn't understand that, but...
Yeah, so let's break it down. Let's break down the episode. So this one, I like how it picks up directly after the events of what happened in the last episode. We get an actual cliffhanger. We have Crosshair that's chasing down Hunter and the clones, and they just jump to hyperspace in the nick of time. And then we have the whole thing with Omega being captured, or she's behind like a force sensitive or force field. She gets Toto. She goads Toto. She uses her ability that she learned through the clones. She's learned a lot dealing with mercenaries basically at this point. She's able to trick him to get her out, and she escapes. They drop her off at this. She gets off at this ex-Kaminoan site, which is really cool, by the way, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. And basically, Cad Bane shows up to get his money. Little as you know, Fennec Shand is already there, kills Tanway. A big battle ensues. We have Omega that calls out to Hunter and the clones. They come there, pick her up. Cad Bane is left with nothing. Fennec Shand is left with nothing. And Omega is left back with the Bad Batch, simply where she kind of left off in the last episode. And I'll kind of give my initial thoughts now that Milton kind of did. I thought this episode has some really good stuff. Has some really not great stuff. So I'll start with the good. Is world building, giving us a whole new location that looked amazing. We had never seen the location. Its name is Boravia. So it almost looked like it was deserted for like hundreds of years, maybe. Maybe it has something to do with like High Republic. I would like to see like more information about that. I like seeing the green tanks because my mind instantly goes to Snoke, but obviously it wasn't. But it's cool to see that like maybe that could have been like Palpatine's place that he would do some other experiments besides on Kamino. I liked seeing how competent that Omega has become. It really get to see her going and coming through as a person that's actually pivotal and can kind of prove her own destiny. And other than that, I was kind of disappointed that it was the resolution on Omega was so quick. Like I thought they could go like 3 or 4 episodes with the clones tracking her down and trying to like see how she's doing on her own rather than being with them all the time. So I was disappointed that it's like, okay, at the end of episode she's gone. At the end of the next episode she's back with them already. And what you guys, I'll kind of echo what you guys were saying about Cad Bane and not being, he's really cunning most of the time, and like somehow she got to his ship and damaged it. He couldn't even fly out. Like that stuff just felt like a little bit too much to me.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of like set the character back, because we were talking about Cad Bane being such a cunning bounty hunter and being really tactile. And the first time we see him in Clone Wars, he basically wins. Like Clone Wars season 1 in the end, they win. He's got the person, I forget who it was, but they
beats Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. It's like, how does that happen to a look, I love Fennec Shand and all, but like seriously, she takes him down that quick. Like he even says so, and even the other person says so. She's a newer bounty hunter, and yet this guy's a grizzled veteran, and he's got all these gadgets, and yeah, it just doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, and again, Ben, I cannot wait to hear what you got to say about this, Ben. like you said, he fought Jedi, and he was holding his own against the best. So that'd be like saying, oh, I'm going to go up against, an MMA fighter for the first time. I'm an amateur MMA fighter going up against a pro, and I hold my own against him or her, and I take her down or him down. Like, are you serious? So to me, I'm like, this writing makes no sense. But like I said, it had some good things, it had some bad things. Ben, I want to hear what you got to say.
Well, alrighty, and where do we begin? So, I think the episode was pretty good overall. It had it was good. I want to say pretty good. I would say it was good overall, but from the first like 2 minutes of the episode, I knew exactly what was going to happen. Soon as Toto said he was having problems with his leg or whatever, I was like, oh great, here we go. I said, Omega's going to trick him. Omega's going to somehow sneak out of Cad Bane's ship. Cad Bane's going to be too distracted in the cockpit or something, and she's going to escape. And that's literally what I said in the first 2 minutes of the show. And that's exactly what happened. So my thing about it is, for one, you'd think with Omega being such a valued target, because I'm sure the Kaminoans are paying very well. So I don't know. I figured Cad Bane would be more calculated than that. You'd think up to this point we'd think he was that calculating. I mean, look, he was in the ship in the downed Star Destroyer in the last episode, to capture Omega. So obviously he did pretty well to slip through the cracks of like the Crosshair and the gang that were there, and then the Bad Batch. Like he got in there without anybody realizing it and was able to capture Omega that easily. And then we get to this episode, he gets outsmarted, and then he gets bested by a new bounty hunter, which to me, that's just like, it's basically them playing to the Mandalorian, where, in the Mandalorian, they, the one guy talked about how Fennec took out the Hutts and this and that and the other thing. So, they're just trying to like add to her character. But my problem with that is, don't add to a new character by tearing down another iconic character. Like I hate to throw this out there, but this is like The Last Jedi with Luke. Like, you're building up Rey, and then you have to tear down Luke and make him a grumpy old man who just wants to stay on an island. So you have
Ben,
that.
I'll give you another example. It's just like Supergirl beating up Superman.
Yep.
Which we all know that's BS. Go ahead.
Oh, that's the most egregious example. But along with that, like, I'm not sure if you guys saw my tweet, but this was my feelings on Cad Bane for the episode. We were expecting Clint Eastwood with Cad Bane, and we got Woody from Toy Story. And that's that was Cad Bane for this episode for me. So
oh my god.
So I just I don't know. It really disappointed me because now it's like, I think, to put it nicely, or not even nicely, to put it, now what? Are we going to potentially have like a redemption arc for Cad Bane where we're going to potentially waste like the next 2 episodes, showing he's a badass, like building his reputation back up. So like
that's a problem. We shouldn't have to do that.
No, that's the thing. Like I think there's a chance because we only have now 7 episodes left.
Right.
I could definitely see the next 2 episodes being like Cad Bane wanting his revenge and coming back after Omega and Fennec and the Bad Batch and everybody, because the next episode's title is Common Ground, then it's Devil's Deal, then Infested, then War Mantle. So Common Ground and Devil's Deal, to me, that
they're teaming up.
Yeah, they're teaming up. So I think you're gonna have a potential team up there, and then also I 100% think we're getting either Boba or maybe Bosk or someone else, another bounty hunter, just because of like the final bits of the episode talking about how like the Kaminoans are going to keep sending bounty hunters, and Hunter was like, they can send all they want or whatever he says to Omega. Like, I think there's a chance we'll get other bounty hunters, but again, it's like, are we gonna, like I said, is Cad Bane just going to be a casualty to Fennec, and then we could potentially have, I don't know, Boba come in and get Omega, and then just to like restructure the power order, basically, like this is how Boba got his chops when he was younger, basically. Like I think that's a big problem. I really think the Cad Bane part of this episode was a big misstep, and the only like quote unquote justification of it, I would say, I was talking to my cousin about this, and he didn't mind the episode, but his like, I guess, forgiveness for the Cad Bane character for this episode was, hey, Cad Bane, when he was dealing with Fennec and all the stuff going on, he was so focused, or his focus was drawn every which way because he was fighting Fennec, worried about Omega escaping, so like maybe he was distracted or whatever. But still, to me, that just doesn't justify the whole outsmarting on the ship thing either. Like,
yeah,
I just wasn't a big fan of it, of the Cad Bane character, but yeah, those are my thoughts on Cad.
Right.
Yeah, how could you just leave like that stupid droid Toto? Like, honestly, you think that droid's gonna be okay, just like hanging out there, like, and not get persuaded? Like, my gosh, that was a big misstep.
Chris, I feel like you're a resident expert on bounty hunters because you're all about that bounty hunter tales right now. if you were Dave Filoni right now, how would you write Cad Bane from this point moving forward, knowing that he took a big L this past episode? How would you write him forward moving on?
Well, you gotta write him taking somebody out. That's what you gotta do. Yeah. Because like, look, at the end of the episode, we thought that he killed Hunter, right? Mm-hmm. So we basically know. And this was one of the best parts about the episode was the information drop that Omega is part of the first generation and is technically the sister of Boba Fett. I don't see enough people talking about that. But she is basically Boba Fett's sister. She is an unaltered clone born around the same time as Boba Fett, essentially. So they basically say, like, oh yeah, the Bad Batch, they're useless. Like, we don't actually need those guys. They're just around protecting her. What we actually need, the target, is Omega. So at that point, we know that they are expendable. We know that there's really no reason for the Bad Batch to even be around anymore. And the story is going to probably just start focusing on Omega. So I could see like Cad Bane just swoop in and actually take somebody out. If he actually kills somebody that, is part of the Bad Batch, he could start to get his reputation back. Maybe.
No, I think that's a good way to write him eventually. I mean, I do think eventually one of those, and this is spoilers later, but I think someone's going to die in the Bad Batch probably by the end of the series, the season.
Yep.
So.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean that, and then I guess the only other, then again, I guess the last episode would cancel out what I was literally just about to say, but I was going to say maybe the only other justification for Cad not being as good of a fighter to like fight off Fennec Shan is maybe, we saw his hat get knocked off. We saw that cybernetic robot thing on his head. So maybe, the duel, and I was talking to the guys about this during earlier before the show, maybe the duel of Boba versus Cad that was like unreleased from the Clone Wars. If you look it up on YouTube, it's still out there. Yeah. Maybe that duel is kind of canon now. And, maybe Cad, took a shot to the head. So maybe he's not as, as thoughtful or something. And then, maybe they're not going to show that duel, because I know a lot of people said, oh man, we now that Cad Bane's back, we're going to get Boba versus Cad in this show, and they're going to just recreate that duel. But I think now, since Cad has that robot thing, maybe there's a potential the flashbacks Tamara Morrison he was talking about, maybe the flashbacks, we just get Cad Bane in a flashback. Maybe Tamara's like talking to Fennec in the future in the Book of Boba Fett. Maybe he's talking about his past, and we get a flashback and we have Daniel Logan do a standoff with Cad Bane, and maybe it's something like that. Because I think now that they showed that Cad Bane has that on his head, I don't think we're going to get that scene in this show at all.
Right.
Yeah, no, they're going to have some kind of flashback or something. I don't know. I feel like they would probably do it in this show rather than Book of Boba Fett, since it's like an animated thing. They might just show the animated thing in the animated thing that's already being made. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty cool hearing about Omega not having that age acceleration. What do you guys have to say about that?
I mean, again, it makes sense. I mean, they established that from day one, saying, I mean, Omega knew she was an altered clone, which I think she kind of knew, but she knew about the other ones. It makes sense that, how she has, developed and matured as the show went on. That's smart writing. So I will say it makes sense.
Oh yeah, I think it does. Now with her, I'm really thinking, I think there's a chance we could get her potentially in a live action set, maybe in the Book of Boba at some point, because, let me just throw this out there to you guys. So Book of Boba, it's Mando season 2.5. Okay. What if the other subject Dr. Pershing is talking about is Omega? And what if that's what draws, if this is Mando season 2.5, we wouldn't stick to Boba and the crime thing. What if that would draw Boba back in with Din to go rescue his sister, because my thing with Omega is you introduce that she's basically Boba's sister. Mm-hmm. And with all of this stuff going on the show, you're building up her training, etc. So you don't have to answer those questions at all. She'll already be a badass when we see her in live action. So it's just a matter of are they just going to have her exclusively be this show? Or is it going to be a situation where she gets transferred over to live action, which, naturally it would be in her brother's show?
Yeah, because I think she could be, because there's always synergy, right? With the Lucasfilm projects, they're always trying to push that synergy, especially with Dave Filoni. Anything he touches, he connects everything. So they're not doing this just for the heck of it. Like if they didn't want her in the show, they would have made her an age accelerated clone, because by the time of Book of Boba Fett, she'd be like 70-something years old, right? Mm-hmm. But now she's going to be like 40-something years old. So it makes perfect sense. And then season 2, we can get some more stuff about her. But it would be kind of cool getting that crisscross effect, really, really, rewarding people. And it's that idea of, oh, you want to see this character? We have an entire animated series for an entire season we released earlier this year. You can go watch The Bad Batch. Oh, you need to know about those characters? Oh, you can watch about the Clone Wars. And then they get you in the whole animated series. That's how they get you.
Yep, I think there's definitely a decent chance of that happening. And gosh, guys, just imagine if she would get like a Mando suit, like with how great of a character, she's going in a really good direction now. Just imagine if she would get like some type of a Boba Fett type, some type of a Mando suit as well.
Right.
And, we get a potentially another really badass Mandalorian character in the whole Mando timeline.
Heck yeah. What do you guys think about the different layers with the Kaminoans, right? Because we thought the Kaminoans were all in cahoots. They were just all against the Empire. But we have Lamasu that wants Cad Bane to go in and just get some genetic material and just kill her, just off her. But then you have Nala Se, who is wanting to keep her around. So it's like, that is very interesting to me, is actually seeing how not only are they butting heads a bit against the Empire, but now we have like another layer, another sub-faction with these Kaminoans.
Again, I'm gonna keep saying it. That's smart writing. I mean, that's expected in something like this, because again, you're dealing with individuals who have different agendas. Like the Kaminoans have always said it, since, especially in this show, like they want to continue the clone project. They want to continue to make their money and push their brand and their product. And then we said it was not Lama Su. Who's the other one that wants to keep her safe? I forget her name. Yeah, like, and you can clearly see, I believe, in the first couple episodes, how she was like a mother figure towards Omega. Like, it just makes sense, and I think that's what I like about this show, when they continuously be consistent with what they've already established. Smart writing, keep pushing that narrative. I want to see how that infighting is going to affect the Kaminoans. How's it going to affect the relationship with the Empire? Because eventually, Tarkin and that other guy's going to find us out.
Yeah, Rampart. Yeah. But again, like, it's kind of good, but kind of bad at the same time. I mentioned at the beginning of my review, kind of is like, oh, we're already getting to the point where she's back on the ship. It's like, how much risk is it when she's already back? She's not a prisoner anymore. But then also you can think about it the other way. It's like, all right, well, we got that out of the way. We got the one episode where she gets captured and they rescue her. They can't really do that again. Well, they can, but it'll be kind of like, why are you doing this again? You're following over your own footsteps again. So it's like, all right, what are we getting in the future? Because as Ben said, we have like 7 episodes. We are more than halfway done with this series. It's ending in August. So it's like, where do we go from here? We can make speculation about the episode titles that Ben mentioned earlier, but it's like, all right, it's kind of cool, because it's like, well, we don't know what the heck's going to happen. We have no idea. Like, where are the Bad Batch? Where are they going to go? Are they going to go to back Ord Mantell and confront whatever her name is, Sid, the Trandoshan, or are they going to maybe try to find Boba Fett? Maybe they'll try to find Boba Fett because she's going to be really curious about this person she apparently never knew about. That's just like her.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think there's a decent chance we could be heading in the direction of Boba Fett, just because of like all the name drops and all the little connections. I mean, I love that they he's called Alpha, so he's the Alpha is like the first letter of the Greek alphabet, and then Omega is the last, so that's cool, symbolism. But with Boba, I think we're potentially heading in that direction, just because of like I said, the episode titles, it's Common Ground, and then Devil's Deal, and then Infested, and then War Mantle. I think potentially Common Ground and Devil's Deal could potentially have something to do with Boba Fett. Maybe we get somewhere where they're having to do something, like you said, track him down or whatever, and maybe a deal with the devil. Maybe that's Boba Fett. They have to make some type of a deal with him for something, or who knows, maybe. I honestly also feel like Omega as a character is growing a lot, because by the end of this episode, you can tell she's feeling bad for what's going on. So I think there's a decent chance that maybe she ends up telling like Hunter and the gang, hey, like, take me to Kamino and we'll make a deal with you guys. Like, take her DNA, but we can still have her. And maybe it's something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of different directions we could be going in, but I for sure think we're going to get Boba Fett to some capacity, because as you said, Chris, like, what's better to tie back live action things like, oh, you want to see more Boba Fett? Go to the Bad Batch, and so on and so on. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of potential connections, and there's a million roads to get there.
Yeah. So we're gonna tie things up here for the night with, of course, our final thoughts. I'll start with Milton, man. What did you think of this episode, and give it a score out of 10?
Yeah. Like I mentioned before, it was a solid episode. I enjoyed it. Like I said, my only nitpicky thing about it was the whole Fennec Shan wrecking Cad Bane, because that's not, I didn't expect that. To me, he was a very untouchable type of bounty hunter. You know, we saw his history of combating the Jedi and holding his own. But again, I think like Ben mentioned earlier, I think the show's trying to show that Fennec Shan is someone that you shouldn't trifle with her, and we know where her story is going to go eventually. So they're trying to continue to build her up. I like where the story's going in the sense of, you know, the Kaminoans' plans, what they want for Omega, that type of thing. Again, it pushed the story along. That's what we've always wanted with this show. So to rank this out of 10, 7.5 out of 10.
7.5 from Milton. All right, I am gonna go before Ben this time around. So what I said before, you know, very enjoyable story, very enjoyable episode, right? This was entertaining as hell, even though the victor wasn't maybe somebody we wanted to be the victor in this particular moment in time. It was still really awesome seeing Cad Bane, seeing Fennec Shan, these two bounty hunters, right? We're not getting a whole lot of bounty hunter content in a lot of shows, period. So it's just fun seeing this show having such a large focus and to see these characters go head to head. And these stakes are pretty high with the money and with the kid. And just overall seeing more of Omega. We're getting that piecemeal of information through tech, which I think is just kind of convenient as well. It's like every episode he just happens to find out one more little detail in the puzzle with his little tablet there. Oh yeah, by the way, this, and this. Like, oh, okay, we're gonna just go with that. So that's a whole nother topic for another day. It's like, how is he getting this information? But in general, it had a lot of good stuff to balance out the things that I didn't like, which is basically Cad Bane looking like a fool in this episode when he should be this deadly cunning guy, and also just the fact that we don't really know what is going on when it comes to the future now that Omega is already captured back again. I feel like they should have taken another episode or two to kind of give us that wanting for them to be back together, because it's like as soon as she's gone, she's back again. So everything's all good in the world. Barely anything happened bad, but with that being said, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I still enjoyed this episode, but had to knock off a couple of points because just things I didn't think worked out as well as they could have. And Ben ended off.
All right. Well, thanks, Chris. I would say, for starters, the episode was good. It had some really good moments. As you said, I love getting the little connections to Boba, to Django, all the stuff going on with the Kaminoans. You know, one of the parts in the episode that made me go, whoa, was when the Kaminoans said, you know, get her DNA and terminate her. Like, that was like, dang. So, you know, she could just get killed. So that was pretty cool. And then just I would say basically everything other than the Cad Bane part of this episode was really good. Like, everything went really well. As you said, Chris, we got to a point where it was like, did this episode matter very much, because we didn't really spend time away from, have time, you know, separate between Omega and the Bad Batch. It's like, you know, it could have been drawn out for 2 or 3 more episodes maybe, just to put more of a sense of urgency. Like, so I think there's that. But overall, the action, the fighting, it was pretty good. But I feel like the biggest plus of this episode is just outside of this episode. You know, you have Omega potentially being a live action character. You have Cad Bane potentially being a live action character. Fennec Shan's getting built up more. So you're having these characters get built up. And I really think these are going to eventually tie into the Book of Boba Fett or another live action property. And then they'll be able to go, hey, watch the Bad Batch. You know, there's your backstory. So with all that being said, as I said, my only criticism is we expected Clint Eastwood, and we got Woody from Toy Story for Cad Bane. So with that, I would give this a 7.5 out of 10.
So there you go. We were all kind of in the same mindset, 7.5 for our scores for this week's episode. And well, we know what's coming next week for a change. We actually have an episode title for episode 10 of season 1, Common Ground. So will we finally see that capital of the Separatists and see what they're up to? Well, we gotta just wait a whole nother week to find out. For everybody that is listening to the podcast, we do this live every Friday night around 9 o'clock Eastern, so you can join us and play along in the chat. And if you are watching this, well, you can go ahead and download this as a podcast for when you're on the run or you're driving or you're at the gym. We put these out every Monday morning, so you can go ahead and download it at Outer Rim Transmission. You can find that on Spotify. You can find that on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and any place else. So as far as you guys with any plugs, do you have anything to say? We'll start with Ben about where they can find you and all that.
You can find me at Real Ben Maynard on Twitter and Instagram. And then every now and then I'm with Jason Ward as well on his podcast called, it's just on his YouTube channel called Making Star Wars. And, you can find me on Chris's channel every week as well.
And Milton?
You can find me at Milton Weber 7 on Twitter. Again, that's Milton Weber and the number 7. Or you can find me here on Chris's podcast throughout the week. Like I said, guys, we appreciate you guys listening. Share it with your friends. Talk about the podcast. We want it to continue to grow. So thank you for all guys out there listening and watching.
There you go. And just a quick reminder, on the YouTube channel this week, I put up my review for an upcoming Star Wars The High Republic book that comes out next week called Race to the Crashborn Tower. Really great middle grade book. Actually, it's my favorite middle grade book for Star Wars so far. Super good, written by Daniel Jose Alder. And of course, I have my week 8 breakdown for War of the Bounty Hunters. I broke down issue number 13 of Darth Vader. So that is gonna do it for Milton, for Ben, and for me. Thanks for watching, and end transmission. And I forgot to say begin transmission this